Hi, my name is Krista Robertson. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I am a victim of gun violence. I grew up in the upstate of South Carolina in a very conservative part of the state. And as a child, I wasn't really around many guns. I knew people who had guns, they hunted. My dad had a pistol, he kept it in his closet, but we never really talked about guns. My family didn't hunt. And of course, like all young boys, my brother had a BB gun, and guns just weren't a big thing in my family. Of course, I grew up in the days when you saw trucks with gun racks in the back of the window with rifles sitting in them in school parking lots. It was just the way it was back then, and it wasn't the violence that exists today. When I was in school, I would never have fathomed someone walking in my school and shooting children and teachers. I was living in New Orleans in 2003. My husband and I lived there for a couple years. He was a chef. At first, we enjoyed New Orleans, but then it started to wear on us. Each day, you'd hear of gun violence, people being held at gunpoint or shot for running in the park. We decided we wanted to leave and move back to South Carolina. My husband moved back first, since I stayed a few extra weeks to finish up my job. My parents decided to come down to help me move the final bit of my belongings back to South Carolina and just kind of make a little trip of it in the process. Our next to last night before we were to leave, we decided to go out to dinner and walk around French Quarter. And on our way home, we were one street north of Bourbon and had just passed like a lively bar when all of a sudden we were held up at gunpoint. It all happened so very fast. But I remember my dad turning around and looking at me and my mom, and his face was white as a sheet. And he said, "I've been shot." I was stunned. I reached over to my dad and pulled up his shirt and saw a small spot with blood. And then the next thing I knew, he had fallen to the ground. And it took quite some time for help to arrive. And my dad was rushed to the hospital. And long story short, he was very lucky he did survive. However, he has permanent damage from this useless act of violence. His lower left leg is paralyzed, and he has to walk with the assistance of a cane and brace. And he's in a lot of pain still, all these many years later. One night many years ago changed his life, my mom's life, mine forever. And for a long time after that, I struggled with PTSD. It took a lot of time and therapy to get over the anxiety from this event. And this is not the only instance in my life that I had a front row seat to gun violence. At an earlier point in my life, I was living in Eugene, Oregon, and I was taking a Spanish class in the evenings at a local community college. My teacher, Bill Kinkle, was well known in the community. I recall him being a very outgoing and kind individual. Halfway through the semester, he was shot and killed by his son, Kip Kinkle. Kip Kinkle, after killing his parents, went on a shooting rampage at his high school, killing and injuring his classmates. And then the most recent event happened right here in my backyard in my beloved community of Charleston, South Carolina. The shooting at the Emmanuel AME Church, where 9 church members lost their life. I was witness firsthand how such a tragedy affects a community. Gun violence has become the norm in the United States. And how did we get here? What is Congress going to do to act? Of course, mental illness plays a role, and for years, this nation did not provide adequate care for those with mental illness and probably still doesn't. But that's not the only factor. All countries deal with mental illness, but all countries definitely do not have access to guns like we do in the U.S. I ask, what is the missing denominator? It's guns. It's infuriating when I hear people throw out the Second Amendment as a reason not to act. The Second Amendment was written at a time when this country didn't have an organized military. We were seeking our independence from Great Britain. It allowed for militias to be armed to protect us and defend our free state. It does not give a person the right to mass murder people. It does not give a person the right to own assault military-grade weapons. No one wants to take your guns away. We just want reasonable and sane gun laws to protect the American people and our children. But how can you advocate for gun laws if you, as a congressperson, are on the take? My own senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, is taking money from the NRA. How is this even legal? No congressman should be taking money from special interest groups. By taking money from these special interest groups, they're being swayed to act in the best interest of the group and not the American people. I want to see Congress enact universal background checks, implement a waiting period. What happened to the Brady Law? Why did Congress let it lapse? Close loopholes at gun shows, require training and a license to own a gun. For God's sake, you have to take a test to get a driver's license. Why not a gun? Ban assault weapons and high capacity magazines. Why do we need a gun that was made for military to protect ourselves? A rifle will do. If you won't ban them, then at least raise the age limit to purchase an assault style weapon to 21. Hold people liable if they fail to secure their guns and their guns are used in mass shooting or killing. Expand the red flag laws. Arming teachers and making our children go to a school that feels like a prison is not the answer. Get money out of politics, eliminate these special interest groups. This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue. And Congress needs to come together to enact common sense gun reform now. Where is the compassion? We cannot wait any longer. Thank you.